So I started in the healthcare industry in the early 70s. I left the aerospace industry. You may not realize it, but back in the 1970s, a flood of engineers came out of aerospace into the healthcare industry because of aerospace and the Vietnam War being wound down. We brought with us a great deal of cutting-edge technology out of the aerospace industry. And if you go back, that was the birth of the sophisticated medical device industry. So I got in early. I came into a company called American Hospital Supply Corporation. I left just before American and Baxter merged back in the mid-'80s. I was a company president for them at that time. I've got an engineering background. Since then, Kleiner Perkins recruited me out of American. I've been in the world of startups. I've been involved in numerous startups, taken companies public, and have been a part of or led teams that have brought over 20 products to market. I've been involved in 13 specialties. Tonight, more recently, I was introduced to biotech, and I've been spending 3 years in the biotech field. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is something that is really one of the very hot areas, and that's immunotherapy. How many people are aware of immunotherapy here? So you know that there's been, when I look at markets, if you want to, for those that are looking for opportunities, the best thing to do is catch an opportunity when the market is emerging, because if you get in early, you can ride the wave. I rode the med tech wave for 30 years. Now, when you look at what's going on with immunology, immunology is on a growth curve. Within immunology, you have immunotherapy on a growth curve. And within immunotherapy, you have cancer immunotherapy on a growth curve. And now there's another emerging area, and that's combination immunotherapies. And we're going to be talking about a new combination immunotherapy tonight. BryoLogyx, and I'll start out with what the investment thesis is for the company. We have a very large market opportunity because we're right in the early stages of this combination therapy market. We have a highly differentiated therapy that will be used in combination to increase durable outcomes, and we'll talk about that as well. We've got an established safety profile for our therapy, our drug, our molecule, from earlier National Cancer Institute studies that have been conducted over 30 years for a different application. So there is 40 studies that have been done, 1,400 patients that have been dosed. We have compelling preclinical data for our application, and we also have, which is unusual, beyond the preclinical data, is that we have clinically based signals that we've seen in other studies that demonstrate what we're trying to do in the immunotherapy area. So we already have, in some ways, an answer to the question we're trying to get answered, which certainly reduces the risk. We have a wealth of value creation collaborations, which will, for a startup, and what's exciting, that creates a market for us that precedes the patient market, and that will mean that we'll have reduced capital needs compared to most therapeutic companies, and also minimize dilution. We'll be in the clinic in 2020. We initially targeted mid-year, but some things have happened. We have a potential collaboration with NCI, and we could be in the clinic sometime in the late first quarter, early second quarter. We have exclusive global rights from Stanford University for a molecule called bryostatin, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's actually the synthesis of that molecule, because bryostatin is a natural product that costs a great deal to harvest from the ocean. We have, and I'll show you a predicate, we have the potential for a 1 billion plus exit valuation for the company based on current industry trends. So all of you know about immunotherapy, and there's a number of different types of immunotherapies. There are CAR-Ts, there are ADCs, there's checkpoint inhibitors, and whatever. But it is really driving the cancer therapy market. This is the largest area for investment today in the world, really, is cancer therapy. There are right now 3,800 clinical trials for immunotherapy products, and there are 382 companies that are conducting these trials around the world. Now, 10 years ago, there was nothing going on. That's how fast this industry has grown. The immunotherapy market is going to be growing to more than double to $98 billion by 2022, just a couple of years away from 2016. So it gives you some idea of what the potential is. The problem with immunotherapy, if you read the articles in the newspaper, and you'll hear about these miraculous cures. You'll hear about the person who is on death's door given 3 days to live. They get an immunotherapy, and 2 weeks later they're cleared. The only problem is not everybody responds. But we know, when you think about it, we're onto something because we are getting these responses. And for those that aren't familiar with immunotherapy, what we're doing is, rather than using chemotherapies, we're going in and jacking up the immune system. So the immune system can identify, kill, and clear the cancer. The cancer tends to downregulate the immune system, takes it over. So the whole change, the paradox, or the paradigm change, is really getting immunotherapy to jack up the immune system. So you have a problem today with 20 to 30% of the patients responding, which means 70, 80% aren't, depending on the immunotherapy. And when we talk about response, we're talking about a durable response. You'll see some that'll say they have an 80% response. The question is, what happens over a year? So we're talking about durable response because the cost to the healthcare system of cancer is significant, and the goal is to reduce the cost by getting long, durable therapeutic outcomes for the patient. Well, what they're learning, and what they've learned, is that cancer, for immunotherapy, the immunotherapy has to see the tumor. And we have what we call cold tumors. They're not visible. And if immunotherapy can't find, you can think this through, if an immunotherapy can't find a tumor, it's there, latent, you may kill those tumors that are hot, and you may get an immediate response, but you've got the other tumors floating around. So with the problem is, how do you solve this problem of what we call, it's the protein on the outside of the cancer, an antigen. And it's how do you produce more antigens so these cells can be seen? Well, lo and behold, a number of researchers, and NCI has really done the pioneering work in this area, has found that bryostatin, this molecule, upregulates antigens. And they've done quite a bit of work on this. And when we got into this, we wanted to find out, they found out for CD22, which has to do with ALL, pediatric ALL. So we got involved, and we've been running for the last year a series of preclinical studies on all different types of antigens to see what other antigens we can upregulate. Now, what we also found, and it's breaking news as of yesterday, is that bryostatin upregulates the antigen, but it also improves the immune system and makes the T cells better killers than they were. So what we have is a therapy that's going to make the cells more visible, and we're also going to jack up the immune system so it can be better able to kill the cancer cells. And we've just filed, as a result of the work we've done, we just filed provisional patents on this recent discovery. Now, the proof of the pudding, and this is work by NCI, is that if you go down from top to bottom, there were a series of animal studies done with mice, and they did one study just with a CAR T, they did one study just with bryostatin, and those are the top two studies, and you can see all the animals died. The third study is with, it actually was a mock CAR T in the top. The third study was CAR T, and you can see the red colors towards the end there, and you can see not all the animals survived, not all the mice survived. When you add bryostatin, they all survived, and it was a durable response. Based on that, NCI has put together a program to go into the clinic next year, for CD22, and we believe we're going to end up participating in that program, and then we're going to complement what they're doing with the work that we're doing on a number of other antigens that we've already seen that can be upregulated. This shows, let's get behind here. Oh, this is a paper that was published in 2000 by another NCI researcher where they were doing another study, and they saw as I said, they observed the upregulation of CD22 in these patients when bryostatin was used. So there is proof clinically already that it can be done. It wasn't a scientific study, and that's what we're moving towards now. Now, what does this mean from a company standpoint? It means that we have, when I say wealth of opportunities, if you take all of the antigens, all of the modalities, all the disease areas, you can think through all the different combinations that we can be involved in. And with 380 companies out there, imagine yourself running a company, you've spent $1 billion on immunotherapy, and you're getting a 20% response, and along comes BryoLogyx, and we've got something that we believe is going to have a big impact on improving the outcomes for those patients. So we become a very valuable company in the near term in combination with other products that are on the market or are coming onto the market. Now, the breakthrough in all of this is the fact that Paul Wender at Stanford, as I said, this is a natural product, and it was harvested from the ocean at a cost of $1.2 million a gram. So one teaspoonful of the product cost $1.2 million, and it was hard for other researchers over the years to use. There was a small supply at NCI that they parsed out to do their studies and do some other things. So the real restraint or constraint has been the fact that there's been a limited supply and it's very costly. Paul Wender went through and he synthesized this, and it was a breakthrough, and it was published in Science just a couple of years ago. And we have the license to the synthetic product. We are well into the way of moving it from the lab to a commercial operation. We have synthetic product now. We'll have clinic-ready synthetic product in the middle of next year. This is a graph that shows Wender's lab showing the equivalence of the natural product to the synthetic product. This shows that we will be in the clinic, as I said, next year. This is our timeline. As I can later, for those that are interested, we have a blue ribbon group of not only researchers, but drug development people, as well as startup and corporate experience and financial experience. Right now, we have raised, we've had bridge financing, $5 million. We've raised $3.5 million on the bridge. We've got about $1 million of that balance committed, and we've got $500,000 available on the bridge, and we're just starting a Series A financing. The last slide is the investment thesis transposed to the risk-benefit ratio. Here's a company, Telos, it's acquired by Merck in April, $773 million. Preclinical, no safety data. They're in the same neighborhood we are. Less than $5 million invested. They're sold for $773 million. These are the types, this is a very good, from an investor standpoint, risk-benefit ratio. We're in a hot area. We've got a very highly differentiated product. We're going to impact a lot of different immunotherapies out there, and we expect next year to be a year when people are going to become more familiar with BryoLogyx. Thank you.
Thank you.